Hello, welcome to the video, and today we're going to be discussing about my honest thoughts on this Gold Cup roster. So, let's begin. So, the Gold Cup starts tomorrow, and obviously, the roster has been released, like, who knows for how long. Obviously, it was released before the Final Four, I believe. So, I'm going to be discussing about my honest thoughts on this Gold Cup roster, and I'm as well going to be talking about some alternatives I possibly would have made if I were the manager. So, let's start. Okay, so let's start about our group. Obviously, it's going to be USMT, obviously, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Saint Kitts and Nevis. So obviously, Trinidad and Tobago and Saint Kitts and Nevis are already 6 easy points. But considering the roster that we decided to bring, and obviously we're going to be talking about Jamaica real soon, and the Jamaica game is tomorrow. So our hardest game is tomorrow. So obviously, it's gonna be a little bit it's gonna be a little bit curious about what BJ Callahan is gonna do about with this roster against for Jamaica. Obviously, I'm gonna be talking about Jamaica like after I talk about the roster. So yeah, let's go right into the player group. So goalkeepers, obviously Matt Turner, Gabriel Sonina, and Sean Johnson were the three goalkeepers selected. My picks would have been really different. Matt Turner, Gabriel Sonina, and Roman Celentano. Obviously, I do not need no more Sean Johnson. Please do not bring this man again after the Gold Cup. Obviously, this man is like 33, I think. I don't know how old is he, but obviously he's pretty old for a goalkeeper. Obviously, it's time for some fresh legs and or in this case for a fresh set pair of hands. And obviously we need Roman Solentano. Obviously, Roman Solentano has been starting for the first place FC Cincinnati, and obviously he's been looking pretty good in goal. Obviously, this man is pretty tall and he's a pretty good shot server. So obviously, I would like to see Roman Solentano really. I would like to see him debut sometime. I don't know, in a friendly or in a game like that. Gabriel Selena, obviously, I understand. I like the call up a lot. I think it's necessary because obviously he's not going to be debuting with Chelsea anytime soon. So obviously, giving him some reps with the national team might be a good idea. My starter for this will be Matt Turner. Matt Turner should be the starter for this group. Obviously, he was the reason why we won the Gold Cup last year because I don't think if we didn't have him last year, if we didn't have him last edition back in 2021, we obviously possibly would have lost in the semifinals or in the quarterfinals. But obviously, Matt Turner was saving us big time. So obviously, I like to thank Matt Turner for winning the Gold Cup, and obviously for me, he should have been the player of the tournament. He was the best player in that tournament, in my opinion. Uh, I do not know why didn't they give him the player of the tournament as well. I think he deserved it. I think they gave it to Hector player of the tournament. I really do not understand why. Usually, player of the tournament goes to the player to the team to the player that actually like was on the winning team. It would have been possibly Matt Turner and Miles Robinson, like one of the two where they were both great during the Gold Cup. But obviously, I'm getting too caught up over here. So I started talking about center backs. Center backs: Miles Ronson, Matt Miazga, Jalen Neal, and Aaron Long. So Miles Robinson obviously should be starting. Obviously, he is the best center back in this center back pool. Uh, Aaron Long should no longer be in this roster. I'm sorry. Like, if anybody is an Aaron Long fan, obviously there's not many, but obviously Aaron Long is a freaking bum. Okay, I saw this man in the CCL final. And this man obviously was just passing it backwards and sideways. That's all he was doing during the entire final. Like, I do not know why they took off Chiellini off. They should have taken off Aaron Long. But it was a stupid decision, and obviously LAFC that costed them the final. Uh, Jalen Neal obviously should be starting it for in this Gold Cup, in my opinion. Obviously, has been looking pretty good for an LA Galaxy side that has been really, really shit. Obviously, he's one of those only players on that LA Galaxy team that can be salvageable. Matt Miazga, obviously, he's been looking pretty good in MLS. Obviously, if it was to me, I wouldn't call him up. I don't. He's like 27. Who knows how old he's? He's pushing for 30, I think. So and obviously he's never looked that good with the national team. Uh, in their place, I would have called up John Brooks and Aaron Palm Brown. Obviously, for me, those two center backs are much better than Matt Miazga and Aaron Long. John Brooks should have been called up. Like I do not understand why. I think I would have called him up. Like he's already solidified a role with Hoffenheim, and obviously he looked really good with Hoffenheim as well. And I possibly would have selected him, even start him in the Gold Cup. But obviously, BJ Callahan decided to be an idiot and decided to leave this man at home. And obviously, the reason why he stated why John Brooks is staying home is because of he needs a freaking preseason with Hoffenheim. What the fuck did I? No, 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 no. Like this man already has a solidified role with Hoffenheim. Like just select him to a Gold Cup. It's not gonna kill you, bruh. Like Eric Palmer Brown should have been selected as well. I know he just got relegated with Troy, but obviously he's in a much more tougher competition than Aaron Long, that's for sure. Uh, uh, I would start Neil and Miles Ronson for this Gold Cup. I think both do fit in well with each other. I do not understand why didn't they pick Walker Zimmerman if you're gonna be selecting an MLS player. It's like I would much rather have Walker Zimmerman than have Aaron Long. Like much rather. Like it's a no brainer for me. Next is the fullbacks of Juan Jones, John Token, Brian Reynolds, and DeAndre Yedlin. So right away, I'm starting John Token and I'm starting Brian Reynolds. For me, both of those are fullbacks that have immense future with us, especially Brian Reynolds. This man looked amazing in the Belgian league with Westerlo, and obviously this man can be getting a transfer away from Roma. Thank the Lord he's finally getting a transfer away from Roma. John Tolkien, obviously, he has been looking pretty good in MLS. Really good to be exact. Uh, he's been looking. I think most people rate him very high. Some people not as much. I think I'm right in the middle about John Tolkien. Obviously, this man has play pace and is a pretty good defender as well. But I think on the offensive side of the ball, he can improve a lot more. I think with a transfer abroad, I think that can be the solution for him. Obviously, with fullbacks nowadays, they have to be willing to provide offensively as well. And I think getting a transfer abroad would help John Tolkien become a more polished player offensively. DeJuan Jones, obviously, he's a much more offensive player than John Tolkien. However, defensively, on the defensive side of the ball, I think John Tolkien does is much better than DeJuan Jones. And I would be starting John Tolkien as well because he's like 21 or something, 20 or 21, I forgot. DeJuan Jones is like 26, I think. DeAndre Yedlin, I do not know why they keep on picking this man. This man is on a really terrible Inter Miami side. And it's not like this man is young as well. This man is like 30 something years old, and obviously we already seen him enough. I would have sucked, and Marlon Fossey just had an amazing season in Belgium as well. Just so you guys know, and obviously I would have sucked at Marlon Fossey any time of the week rather than DeAndre Yedlin. Like, and just to be honest, um, obviously, I don't know who would I've selected as well. Who would rather have than DeAndre Yedlin? Obviously, there's a lot of fullbacks that I'd rather have rather than DeAndre Yedlin. I think after the World Cup, obviously his time with the national team should have been over. I would say some after the World Cup, just say DeAndre, your time here is done. Like, man, don't return ever against the national team. But obviously, he still gets killed. He's still getting called up, which is ridiculous, just ridiculous. Midfielders. Let's talk about this. Gianluca Busio, Aiden Morris, Jordan Mihailovic, James Sands, Alan Sonyora, and Christian Roldan. Roldan has been really terrible for the national team, and I've never seen an impressive moment from him, even against a Martinique side in the last edition of the Gold Cup. Obviously, we were blowing out Martinique, and this man still looked poor. I would start Dijordi Mihailovic, which is the most obvious choice for this Gold Cup. Gold Cup. Uh, Aiden Morris obviously has been looking amazing in MLS, and I would be starting for him. And obviously, he was a dual national, and you might as well just tie him now. James Sands, obviously, I would start him as well. He hasn't been looking that sharp in MLS, but NYCFC haven't been looking sharp either, so I would be selecting him. Alan Sonora, I kind of do understand it, but I'm not really that big a fan of Alan Senora. Gianluca Busio, I do not know what this man is here. This man has been looking really terrible for Venezia. I'd rather have Tanner Tessman, but obviously Tanner is getting married this summer, so that's the reason why he's not going to the Gold Cup. Uh, Gianluca Busio looked pretty average in last edition's Gold Cup. Obviously, when it comes to set pieces, obviously that's Gianluca Busio's strength. Is when it comes to set pieces. However, I do not see much more in him. He can pick up a pass here and there, but obviously he's a pretty limited player. Going when he went to Serie A, I thought that was a really stupid decision by Gianluca Busio. I would have rather I possibly would have went to another league like the Eredivisie just to polish his game up. Jordan Mihailovic, for my picks, is Jordan Mihailovic, Tim Tillman, Aiden Morris, James Sands, Noah Buck, Paxton Palmcall. So it's pretty much similar, but obviously different. Tim Tillman, I would have selected him. Obviously, this man just like committed to the USMT, and obviously has been looking amazing in MLS as well. He didn't look too good in the CCL final, but obviously no one in LAFC looked good for in the final. And here's before you guys call me a hypocrite, we're saying Aaron Long. Oh yeah, he didn't look good in the CCL final, but how come Tim Tillman, who didn't look good in the CCL final as well, you're picking him? Obviously, there's one thing. Aaron Long has been looking pretty shit in MLS as well. He's been looking rusty, and obviously LAFC are a good side. And how can you still look shit with that side? So obviously Tim Tillman obviously has been looking amazing in MLS, and I'll be picking him. I'd much rather have Tim Tillman on this roster. Noel Buck obviously has been looking pretty good in MLS as well. He didn't get selected to U20 World Cup, and obviously I would be selecting him. So obviously, I would be picking some players that were not selected to U20 World Cup, and obviously some that didn't get too many reps. Paxton Pomykal, obviously I would be selecting him. He's been looking pretty decent in MLS, and obviously he's been looking pretty convincing in MLS. So obviously I would have selected him much rather than Christian Ladon. So now let's talk about the wingers. Wide players: Katie Cowell, Jordan Morris, Alejandro Sendejas, and Julian Gressel. Okay, so right away I'm starting Katie Cowell. I would not want to start Jordan Morris under any circumstances. Jordan Morris, obviously, for me, Jordan Morris should be playing as a striker. I don't think he's ever going to be the same Jordan Morris as before. Um, Alejandro Sendejas should be starting as well. Obviously, I think he's one of the star players of this group right now. And obviously, if we're going to be successful offensively in any way, shape, or form, obviously, he's going to have to run through Sendejas. Julian Gressel, uh, do not know why we selected him. So, if my picks, I'd much rather have Brian Gutierrez. Uh, much rather have him rather than Jordan Morris. Obviously, Brian Gutierrez at least has that creative side of the ball in him. And obviously he does not have problems with his fucking ACLs as well. Um, I would have selected Cam Paredes. Cam Paredes, we didn't get to see much of him in the U20 World Cup, and obviously I would have wanted to see him at least have some reps with the senior team. And during the summer, he was one of those players that got selected in the U20 World Cup, but obviously came in late. So obviously I would have wanted to see him at least have a game against St. Kitts and Nevis. Um, so let's talk about this group of wingers. Obviously, in particular, let's talk about Julian Gressel. Obviously, do not. I don't. We're not Mexico. We do not need naturalized players to come play for our team. Obviously, I do not know why we picked Julian Gressel even in the first place. Um, I saw this man against Serbia, and he didn't look. He looked all over the place. Jordan Morris. Oh my gosh, it's a terrible pick. Uh, no, 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 no. Uh, I have never been impressed by Jordan Morris in any way, shape, or form. In the World Cup, obviously, he was one of those garbage substitutions, obviously. Um, and obviously, he didn't do anything in the World Cup. And look, at our starting 11 was amazing during the World Cup. But obviously, once the substitutions came in, the quality went down like it went out like with a finger of a snap. Once the substitutions came in, the quality just went down. It just went down. So now let's talk about the strikers. Brandon Vasquez and Jesus Ferreira. Brandon Vasquez barely has 4 goals this season in Major League Soccer, and Jesus Ferreira has never looked good with the national team in the first place. Um, oh my God, Brandon. If Brandon Vasquez can summon his last season form, obviously this would have been a good pick, and hopefully he does have his last season form coming with him. If I were to pick someone, I'd rather have Haji Wright rather than Brandon Vasquez. Haji Wright has been scoring goals in Turkey in a much more competitive league than MLS, that's for sure. Turkey's not that good, but it is certainly better than MLS. Tyler Boyd did not even make the bench in Turkey, and now this man is starting in MLS. Like, we still have a long way to go before we can catch up to some of these European leagues. Uh, no, look, I would have selected Haji Wright. Like, I know he's not the best player, but obviously you're not playing against fucking the Netherlands or fucking England over here. You're playing against freaking Jamaica. You're playing against Trinidad and Tobago. You're playing against Saint Kitts and Nevis. You're giving reps. You're giving reps against some of these really terrible sides, and obviously you're not. You did not select Haji Wright. Like, uh, it, at least we didn't pick Yadi Zardes. Obviously, last time around we picked Yadi Zardes and we still managed to win the tournament. I remember last season, over I could say last edition of the Gold Cup. Obviously, we are starting 11 for the final. Who did we have in final starting? We had Sebastian Lletget, that's for sure. We had freaking I think Shaquille Moore was the starter for most of the tournament. Um, Sam Vines was a starter for most of the tournament as well. That was before he went to Europe. Like, when Colorado Rapids, Sam Vines was terrible. Like, he was terrible. Center backs, obviously James Sands was starting. And he looked good. So obviously that's something. Um, Obviously Paul Arriola was started for most of the tournament, so obviously we have a lot of upgrades over the 2021 team, and obviously hopefully this team has the same balls as the 2021 team. If it has more quality, that's for sure, but obviously I hope it has the balls as 2021 team. So hopefully, let's talk about some key points. My preferred 11, obviously. If I were BJ, I would obviously start Matt Turner, back for John Tolkien, Jalen Neal, Miles Ronson, and Brian Reynolds. That's a really solid back four with a double pivot of Aiden Morris and James Sands. Obviously, that's a solid double pivot, and obviously Mihailovic at 10. Obviously, he's a pretty creative player, and I'll be trusting him. Kate Cowles and Sendejas as wingers. Obviously, they'll be providing a lot of attacking threats down the wings. Kate Cowles with his speed, and Alejandro Sendejas with his creative abilities. And obviously, Brandon Vasquez starting up top. I think Brandon Vasquez fits better with this team, much better than Jesus Ferreira. So obviously, I think if we start this team, obviously, I think we can have a team that can defend the Gold Cup title. Um, so let's talk about the key points. Key points here are Jamaica are bringing a decent roster. Okay, Jamaica. I know the results haven't been good as of late, but they still drew with Mexico in the Azteca, and obviously they didn't do it with Mikel Antonio. Mikel Antonio is going to be in the Gold Cup. And obviously, alongside that, he's going to be having the likes of Leon Bailey, and he's going to be and Damari Gray is going to be on the roster for Jamaica. And Jamaica are bringing some championship players as well. To and like for a fact, they're going to be bringing Ethan Pinnock. For sure, they're going to bring in Pinnock, who is a Premier League center half. Obviously, they're going to be bringing a handful of championship players as well that have been looking pretty decent down there. And obviously, alongside with that, I think they're going to be bringing Reed from Fulham as well. That's a pretty decent roster on paper. Like that's a pretty decent roster, and obviously, if I were BJ, I wouldn't be fooling around with against this Jamaica side. Jamaica have a pretty decent roster on paper. On paper. Um, the USMNT won't play against Canada or Mexico until the final. If let's say all three top their group, if all three top their group, obviously the USMNT won't play against either of them up until the final, which is a good thing. Canada won't bring Alfonso Davies, Jonathan David, and Kyle Laren, and obviously that's a win for us. Obviously, I think if all the teams throughout their A roster except us, I think the biggest threat will be Canada. Will still be Canada. Um, let's talk about Jamaica real quick. Obviously, they're gonna bring in Andre Blake, Amari Bell. Obviously, they're gonna bring him as well. Damian Lowe. Who can I see? They obviously already stated Bobby Reed. Uh, so obviously this is still a pretty decent roster for Jamaica. And obviously I wouldn't be fooling around against them anytime soon. Mexico, they're going to bring in their Nations League roster, and obviously I know we just trashed them 3-0 or something, but we won't have those players like Christian Pulisic, G Arena, Tim Moya, and obviously Weston McKennie, and obviously Chris Richards, Sergio Das. Obviously all of our A squad pretty much won't be on this Gold Cup, and obviously we're going to be playing against a Mexico side that has the likes of, although they're still pretty shit, obviously they still have Santiago Jimenez, obviously they still have Edson Alvarez, they have Luis Chavez, obviously they still have those players that can cause a lot of problems against you. And obviously, if I were have to have put my money in it again, I think we're gonna be seeing a Mexico versus USMT final yet again. And obviously, the USMT is gonna have to be on their A game against Mexico. They won't. I like. They're gonna be on to be on. We're gonna have to be on our A game against Mexico, considering the fact that we're gonna bring in a pretty much a lesser quality roster on paper. And obviously, Mexico have a new coach with Jimmy Lozano, who's a pretty decent coach. He coached Mexico to a bronze medal. So obviously, if I were the US, I wouldn't be fooling around. That's in short, I wouldn't be fooling around. Uh, so thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully, the USMT defend their Gold Cup, and if we defend our Gold Cup, obviously we're gonna be tying Mexico in the Gold Cup win. So hopefully we do defend the Gold Cup. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.